We're supposed to be live, at least I think. Okay. Okay, so we're live. We can I know for sure that we're live. So hello everyone. Okay, so we're live. We can Okay. Hello everyone and welcome. So we're gonna wait for a bit more time for a few people to join. And in the meantime, this is a day where we will talk a little bit about the IMAT and IMAT 2024 and what's it gonna change between these years, and yes, also a bit of our predictions. Okay, so a lot of people are joining. That's great. We're still gonna wait a few more minutes, and then we will all introduce each other, because I know that you can only see me right now, but there are actually more people in this call. And we're going to start in a little. Okay, wow, a lot of people are joining. That's great. Okay. So okay, so I think we can start. I see that more and more people are joining right now, but just so you know, a little premise. I'm not going to be able to look at the chat right away. So my suggestion is, when you have questions, wait. And when I say, do you guys have any questions for us? Then write them in the chat, because I will not be able to look at them right away. So please wait until, the exact moment to ask the questions. Otherwise, it's going to be very hard for all of us to kind of, sort out the event, and also answer your questions and be, directly involved with what you guys have to ask us. So a little introduction first. This is again IMAT Orientation Day. And who are we? We are a community of students. We are a part of a company that is called Testbusters, and that's our motto: students for students. We are all medical students. We study, actually right now we have opened it up, and we're not just only medical students. We are students that study either in Italy or that study medicine also worldwide. And we want to help you pass the entry tests for every kind of test that there is in Italy. And also, of course, the IMAT test, which is what you're here for today. So as you can see, we have different shirts in this picture. We can see that the red one is for logical reasoning. The green one is for biology, which is a subject I teach, even if right now you can see that I am in a different shirt. And then we have orange for chemistry, and last but definitely not least, maths and physics, which is blue. What do we do? Well, we do actually a lot of things. We have also for university orientations. So this event, for example, it's we just offer, for example, services and things that can help you with the orientation. We can, of course, give you some advice based on our personal experience, because we are all teachers who have passed the IMAT test in the previous years. I have passed it a lot of years ago, because it was 2019, but indeed, I did pass it. And of course, we're up to date with the recent changes every time. We can also offer a one-to-one personal coach for a study plan. We have live courses, intensive, online fully, so you can, follow them whenever you want from whatever place, because they will all be recorded. We offer also an exercise book, online simulations, and last but not least, the big new entry of this year, this August, so actually in a few weeks in Milan, you're going to be able to attend this summer school, which is a new project of ours, which we're super proud of, in which you can come here to Milan and attend lectures in presence. So what are we going to do today? Well, first of all, we're going to have a bit of an orientation. And we're going to, kind of explain a little bit about what IMAT is and how to register and what are the registration dates, all these things that I know are really worrisome. Then we're going to have a simulation. And last, but definitely not least, we're going to have a correction with all of our teachers. This is extremely important, guys. Remember, the correction is something that you must not underestimate, because that's where you learn from your mistakes. Okay? Great. So who are we? First, let me introduce myself. If you haven't seen me around, maybe in some videos, I'm Chiara. I am a fifth-year medical student at the University of Milan, and I study at the IMS, which is the International Medical School of Milan. So if any of you that are watching is interested in, attending the University of Milan, then I'm probably your girl. Now, Federico.
Hello to everyone. So as you see here, my name is Federico and studying at the University of Bologna. I'm currently in my fifth year. I'm studying Italian, but of course, should you have any question about like how studying in Bologna, or should you have any doubts about math and physics later, please do not hesitate to use the chat.
Yes, and also Federico is very great friends with a girl that was our boss last year and that studied at the medicine and surgery in English in Bologna. So he knows all about it if you have any questions. Then we have Nara.
Hello to everyone. I'm Nara. I'm studying at the University of Turin. I've just finished the fourth year, and actually my university, medicine and surgery, is in San Luigi. So it's in Orbassano, which is nearby Turin and not in the city.
And definitely last but not least, we have Emma.
I'm Emma. I'm on my first year of university. I study in Milan too, and I study in San Paolo Hospital in Italian. And
she's our big new entry of this year. So we're super happy to have her. And now that we have all introduced ourselves, let's move on to what you really want to know. So why should you choose to study medicine in Italy? Well, there is only one admission test, which I think we all know, all of the people that are watching right now, it's the IMAT test. And everything is in English. So if you already know some of English, you will not have to learn anything else in Italian, even better. The university fees. Why do I say that? Because I think you are all, used to the big medical schools in the UK, in the US, in Canada, that have these big fees that are kind of scary. And instead, actually, Italy has very, very affordable rates, especially for international students. So that's something that it's definitely worth looking into if you want to study in a very good university, because remember that Italian schools are very prestigious, but you don't want to spend too much money. The international environment, I think all of us teachers, so also Nara and also Fede, can definitely confirm you that the medical schools have a huge pool of different countries and different people and different ethnicities. And that's, I think, the beauty of it. You are never just in your own little box. You are always getting to know different cultures. You're always getting to know different people. And that's just so illuminating. And of course, last but not least, I think the country is definitely one of the pros. Who doesn't love Italy? Who doesn't love pizza? Who doesn't love the food and the culture that just Italians can bring? Well, that's definitely something that you should look into, of course. Why should you not study medicine in Italy? As you can see, why should you not? There's literally no reason you shouldn't, because again, you don't need any GPA, you don't need any SAT, you don't need an English certificate even for most of the universities anyway. You basically just need to pass the IMAT test, and you just need to have a high school diploma. It doesn't matter if you got out of your high school with top grades or if you just barely got out of high school, doesn't matter. The only important thing is that you have a diploma and that you want to study here in English and that you're willing to pass the IMAT. Should you be scared that everything is in English because maybe you're a non-English speaker? Well, the thing is, professors, and I can personally confirm that, and also the others, are not native speakers themselves. That doesn't mean that their English is bad. It just means that the struggle that you are probably going to make in the first few weeks, it's also the same struggles that professors went through. So it's, again, going to be much easier for you to kind of like get into the culture and get into, you know, the professors, which are usually very nice and very understanding if you struggle, at least in the first few years. I know that some of you may be scared because newer universities are opening, especially in English, and some questions that we got asked is that we can have logistic issues. Well, I can tell you that it's kind of a problem, but it's also not. The thing that it's good about it is that you can really just be super into the environment of that school. So you can really help the school improve, you really make a difference. And that's something that doesn't happen every day. For example, older schools like Pavia, like Milan, there's something of a system that has already been in place. That doesn't mean that you cannot help and change it. We're always welcome if you want to help and change some things that may not work. But that's basically it. And the chance to live abroad and to really broaden your horizons, to kind of learn what it is to live on your own and to live in a different country, which is not always so easy. I think it's much easier for us than, for example, for our parents or for other people, but now it's always a challenge. I personally went to Erasmus. I know also Nara went to Erasmus, so we did live a little abroad, and that's definitely an experience that you do not want to miss. Now, where can you study medicine in Italy? Well, here it's a very good picture. I love this picture, to be honest, because it can really just help you focus on where the medical schools in English are. In Italian, there are so many more, of course. They're actually opening. As you can see, we have almost one in every region, except for a few regions of the center and a few regions of the south. You have a couple also in the islands. Cagliari, it's a big new one. And you can see that the public are in pink, whereas the private ones are in purple. So here it's a breakdown of the public universities and the available places for both Europeans and non-Europeans. Remember this, non-Europeans actually compete for a different ranking. That's why they have different available places, okay? And that's why usually the places available are less. Again, so as you can see, these are in alphabetical order. So you have Bari, Bologna, Cagliari, Catania, Messina, Milan. Milan Bicocca, there is instead in Bergamo, so it's not actually in Milan. Two universities of Naples, Federico II and Vanvitelli. Pavia, Padua, Parma, which is actually located in Piacenza. Remember this. We have actually two universities in Rome, which are both for medicine and dentistry. One is La Sapienza and the other is Tor Vergata. University of Siena, which is only for dentistry, and the University of Turin, where Nara studies, she told you before. For the private ones, instead, we have, usually they are located in Milan and in Rome, okay? So we have San Raffaele, Humanitas, and Cattolica University. Main ones, especially. As you can see, we have MedTech, which is basically a humanities university with a spin that is more of biomedical engineering. Wow, I know. actually another university public if you're interested in a double degree. So if you want to get out of the 6 years of medicine with 2 degrees, you can do that also in a public university that it's called Polimarche in Ancona. That's the only public universities that offers this chance so far. Another one is MedTech and the Campus Biomedico University MedTech too. So Unicamillus, Campus Biomedico, and a big new entry also of this year, the Cattolica University of Bolzano. In here, you're gonna have to learn 3 languages, not 1, because the courses are going to be in English, but the clerkships are going to be both in Italian and in German. So basically, you get out of this university that you know 3 languages like by heart. I know, that's very interesting. Each one is different, but they have some common features. Each offers the possibility to go to Erasmus, which is basically the chance to do 6 months, 1 year of your medical program abroad. Then, usually, the exams end early in the 6th year. So they end by the 1st semester of the 6th year, so that you have the 2nd semester of the 6th year just to work on your thesis. Because yes, to graduate, you need to basically do a project of your own, followed by a professor, and that's called thesis, and present it in front of a commission. I know there's not just multiple choice written exams, there's also oral examinations, and the classes are very small. They're much smaller than what you may expect. As you can see, I think the biggest one has like around 110 places, so that's the biggest one though. All the others are much smaller. They're around like 50 to 70, and even some that are smaller that are around like 25, which is good because it means that the professors have chance to focus on you and know you personally and really get to know your questions. But that also means a lot more competition for the IMAT. International environment, as I said before. And again, you don't need an English certificate except for Milan Bicocca. So far, that's the only university that requires a certificate. So if you're interested about the different universities, we have basically a university guide for every single public university. So I really suggest you watch this QR code and you check them out because they're extremely, extremely interesting. In our blog, there is everything that you need to know, even a breakdown of the fees, a breakdown on how to enroll. So everything that you may have a question on, it's on our blog. Or we have made a previous event on imatmedschool.it, actually imatmedschool.it, that is called Studying Medicine in Italy. You can find it if you click here. So basically, if you go on YouTube and tap IMAT Med School IT, and then you go on to live, this is an event in which we talked only about studying medicine in Italy. So there is just a focus on this first part. All the Italian medical schools, the post-graduation opportunities, because believe me, there are so many that you may not know about. You don't have to stay in Italy. You don't have necessarily to go back to your home country. There are so many things that you can do. Application guides, because I know that you guys want to know that, and a very interesting Q&A session. So if you want to know more about this part, go watch our YouTube live. I promise you, it's a bit long, but you will not regret it. However, 90% of the preparation, it's up to you, no matter what school you choose. Even if you choose the easiest university that you may get into, that doesn't mean you're 100% going to get in and you don't need to put in the work. Believe us, the work needs to be put in. Now, let's move on to a bit of a rough topic. IMAT 2024. What's going on? Well, I think you are all scared right now about IMAT 2024. I think that's what you're all waiting for. Basically, what's going on is that there's been no ministerial decree officially from the MUR. The MUR is the Italian Ministry of University, okay? No ministerial decree has yet been released. However, we know that there will be an IMAT 2024, so do not worry about that. We just need to know the syllabus, if it's going to change from last year, the modalities, whether it's going to be computer or paper-based, and when are the registration dates going to be, which I know that is something that all of you always ask. The problem is that until that ministerial decree comes out, we are not going to know for certain when are the registration dates going to be. However, we don't think that much is going to change respect to last year. We really don't, just because the ministerial decree should have come out much earlier for big news to have been introduced. Does that make sense? So technically, no news is good news, because it means that probably everything is going to stay the same with just a bit of predictions. Again, these are just our predictions, nothing for certain. So what can you do in the meantime? So you study the theory. You study the theory and you get acquainted with the topics, because again, they likely will not change much. We do not expect for it to not to be biology anymore, for there not to be chemistry anymore. We think that the topics are pretty much going to stay the same, with just a couple of variations probably. Once we have the ministerial decree that is released and the full syllabus out, then you do a lot of exercises, and you focus on the different topics that have been introduced. And last, you do a lot of simulations, because that's what's important. At the end of the day, what matters are the simulations. What is the date that you must really get into your head? Tuesday, September 17th, 2024. Why? Because that's when IMAT 2024 will take place. So do not forget this date, because otherwise you're not going to take the IMAT this year. And again, the modalities and contents will be set out in the upcoming regulations, which we are still waiting for. To be honest, we really think that it should be released at least later this week or in next week top. So we don't think that you're going to have to wait a long time for you to have a very set out date, and for it to a very set out syllabus and everything like that. Now, moving on, another to a juicy part, that is something that you guys have asked a lot on our Instagram page: how to enroll in the IMAT test. This is how you imagine the road to IMAT: very easy, very, straight, no ups and downs whatsoever. And this is instead how it really is. So yeah, the Ministry of University and Research really likes to pull a little bureaucracy tricks on us. However, so expect the unexpected. However, again, we really do think that it won't change much from last year, even the registration process. So do not be like Kermit, do not panic too much, because we have a full procedure set out for you. So EU students have to do everything online on universally.it, okay? That's the logo that you're going to see. Some universities should have more requirements. Usually it's not that difficult and it's not that hard to have further requirements. At best, usually they ask you to register onto the university website before you take the IMAT test. But we always recommend to check the university website just to make sure that they don't introduce a new regulation this year, for example. Non-EU students, before going directly to university, need to do a additional step that is called pre-enrollment, in which you need to obtain the declaration of value. A declaration of value that it's basically a document that translates your diploma, high school diploma, into an Italian diploma. And it gives the validity in Italy, okay? In some cases, you may need a pre-registration. However, I know I left this part because it's not sure. Some universities have taken it out. Some universities have left it. I know that Turin recently, then maybe not, I can tell you better if you're interested. If you want to know, you can write it in the comments. But I'm pretty sure that Turin took out the registration process this year, whereas Messina and Pavia still have it. And then, once the dates for registration are open, both non-EU and EU students have to register for the test on Universally. So that's the registration for the test is a step common to both. Non-EU students just have an additional thing to deal with, let's say. Okay? Great. So we have talked better of the pre-enrollment, of the pre-registration, of all these different things in another live, again, the Studying Medicine in Italy live So if you want to know more about this process, I really do recommend you go watch it because everything is explained better there. Now, what do you need to do on Universally for the registration? You sign up first, so you enter, you log in, and you create a Universally account, and then you submit the following: your email address, then the list of university that you want to apply to, ranked according to preference lists. That's only for EU students, because non-EU students are only able to compete for their first choice. So let's say that I'm a non-EU student and I'm unsure whether to study in Milan or in Bologna. I really have to pick. My first choice is going to be the one that matters. If I'm an EU student and I'm not sure if I want to study in Milan or Bologna, I can still have, I still have to put my first choice in the moment of registration, but of course, I can still compete for the other second choice that I haven't put, whereas non-EU students cannot. Then you put the test center where you wish to sit for the IMAT. Be careful, because from what I know, we have that the international test centers tend to go by very quickly, which means that you have to really rush with your registrations, especially, for example, those in Turkey. I know that they are sold out very, very quickly. And if you want to sit in Italy, the only test center that you can put, it's going to be that of your first choice. So if you want to sit for the IMAT test in Italy and you're non-European, and for example, your first choice is Milan and you choose Bologna, that's not going to be valid. So be careful for that. And if you have a language certificate, then yes, you can insert also your language certificate. The language certificate doesn't really matter that much. It's only if two candidates have same birth date, the same birth year, and the same score in every single subject that then you go look at a language certificate. So it's really, really later, okay? It's not right away. But this is what you have to do, basically. Remember that once you pay the fee, so you pay €130 fee, your first choice will be locked in. You are not going to be able to change your first choice for European students. For non-European students, instead, of course, it's only going to be that one. But that's why when I tell you, when you pay, really be careful, because your first choice is going to be that, and it's going to be set in. You can keep changing your second, third, fourth, fifth choice up until the end of the registration, but the first will be locked in. And then you must absolutely download and bring on the test dates the two emails that you will receive. First, the successful IMAT registration, and the second, the receipt of the payment. Absolutely do not forget these, okay? There is a question. If you are non-EU but EU equivalent, yes, of course, you can choose more universities because you are EU equivalent. If you are non-EU resident in Italy, that means that you are EU equivalent, and yes, then you will be exactly considered the same as an European student. Don't worry. And where can I find simulations for the IMAT? I'm going to tell you in a while. I'm not going to spoil it just yet. So if you still have problems with the registration, well, we have a YouTube tutorial for you. Again, you go on IMAT Med School IT on YouTube, you click on video, and that's the first video that's going to appear. It's a step-by-step registration. So literally you can just, follow it step by step. It's very easy. It's very straightforward. And we don't think the registration is likely going to change much. So if, for example, we're going to make another tutorial if there's a change for registration in IMAT 2024, but we think that it's still going to be valid. Okay, yes, you do need to print out the receipt. And, well, until you have your residence permit, so your permesso, you are considered non-EU. You are considered non-EU equivalent, so non-EU resident in Italy once you get your permit, okay, or permesso di soggiorno in Italian. So, IMAT 2024, what are the available spots? For Europeans and non-Europeans candidates, you can see that for medicine and surgery, there are 919, and for non-EU, 475, so considerably less. For dentistry, 42 for the EU. Non-EU candidates that want to study dentistry in Italy are going to have to compete a lot, because just 18 places is very, very little. And that's the total spots. So there's actually been a huge increase of at least more than 100 places compared to last year, but that doesn't mean that competition will not be fierce. Okay, if I want to get into Milano Bicocca, but I don't have a language certificate, can I still compete? Yes, you are. Yes, you are able to do that. No, okay, so this is a question of the Italian test. No, we don't think that there will be a question bank at all, to be honest. That would be too much of a change, but let's wait until the next part. So, what is the IMAT ranking list, or also national ranking list, and how does it work? It tends to work very, very differently. So let's just analyze 2 years. IMAT 2021 and how the ranking behaved in 2021 versus how it behaved in 2023. Okay? So yes means people that got into their first choice. In 2021, up until position 900, and just to give you an idea, around 5,000, 7,000 people are actually able to get into the IMAT ranking list for European people, for European students. So that's kind of a good score. The fact that up until position 900, circa, people were able to get into their first choice. It's very good. Maybe, so depending on the preferences, they were still able to get into one of their choices up until position roughly 2,800, okay? And over position 2,800, they were not able to get in and for medicine, and over position 3,000, they were not able to get in for dentistry. So as you can see, for dentistry, the scores were much lower. However, this is what happened last year. As you can see, there is a huge reduction into the positions. So the first choice was roughly up until position 400, which is cut by half, by even more than half. Maybe up until 1,300, which is again cut by almost 1,000, depending on the preferences, and then over 1,320, they were not able to get in for medicine, and over just 1,000, they were not able to get in for dentistry. So there you can see there has been a whole change in ranking. So what do I mean by this slide? Can I use the prediction of the past year to know for sure if I've gotten into IMAT and into my first choice for 2024? Absolutely not, because every test is different. Every year is different, and IMAT is getting more and more competitive, which means that it's going to scroll less and less and less. So the competition will be fierce. You don't have to focus on just the score. You have to focus on doing the best that you can, and on keep doing the best that you can and cut out all the possible errors. Okay? So this is our website, and actually there is a very interesting article that we wrote that is called IMAT Ranking List for Dummies, in which every little detail that you must know about the ranking is explained very, very well. Once we will have the registration dates open, we will also probably release a video about it, so check out also our Instagram. I see that there are a lot of questions, so if I am an EU citizen and I want to compete for a place in Rome, but logistically it's better, is it invalid? Yes. Usually, if you want to take the test into an Italian choice and into an Italian test center, you have to take it into the first choice. Otherwise, you risk, yes, getting it invalid. So my suggestion is, every year it tends to change, but I wouldn't risk it if I were you. So should I apply to scholarships? Okay, you can, that really depends on the university. For scholarships, I'm gonna stop you right there. For scholarships, everything is different. So first, for scholarships, and we've talked this very, very well about this in the other event that we did, studying medicine in Italy. You first find out the university that you wanna compete in, and then you apply for a scholarship. However, the process of scholarship application tends to change. university by university. So once you do that, you go on to our uni guides and you find out all the scholarship applications and you choose the ones that would suit you best. Okay? So non-EU ranking list. Because all I've talked about right now, it's only for EU students and non-EU's equivalent. So basically non-EU students living in Italy, okay? Instead, as I said before, non-EU can only apply for one university and they do not enter into the national ranking list. They enter onto a separate one that it's just for their university and that it's going to be released at the same date, of course, of the official ranking list, but onto the university website. So non-EU students, on the date where the ranking is released, you're going to have to check not University Italy, but the website of the university that you've chosen. Or in some cases, you actually get an email from the university saying that you've been selected, but that changes. Now, I'm going to really make this clear. These are just predictions of ours. Nothing has been clearly set out. But this is what we imagine it's going to happen, okay? The end of the pre-enrollment for non-Europeans and the registration are going to open and close around mid to end August and probably the first 4 days of September. That's why we really expect the bando or ministerial decree to be released very quickly, in a couple of days at best, in a couple of weeks at best, okay? Because I think by the end of August, maybe the first days of September, the registration is going to close. On the 17th, you're going to take the IMAT. On the 30th of September or around that date, so by the end of September, the first few days of October, the anonymous ranking is going to be released. Around the 11th of October, 13th of October, we think, you're going to be able to look at your personal scores, and the probably national ranking is going to be released between October 18th, October 21st, October 22nd, okay? Again, please, this is just our opinion. I have made this very big so that you all can sort of kind of get it into your head. This is nothing official, just what we think it's going to happen, okay? Just to give you an idea of dates that you may expect, okay? Maybe it's not going to be the 30th, it's going to be the 29th, it's going to be the 2nd of October, but just to give you an idea of the time period that we're looking at. And the idea is that IMAT 2024, it's not going to change by syllabus much or by questions much with respect to IMAT 2023. So again, 60 questions in 100 minutes, 4 of general knowledge and reading skills, 5 of logical reasoning, 23 of biology, 15 of chemistry, and 13th for maths and physics. And yes, it's still going to be pen and paper based with the papers that you really have to put in, and you have to put in the different boxes, you know, what we call anaggraphic paper, what we call answer sheet, that are going to have to put into the little boxes. But again, this is just our opinion, just a prediction that we've made. Also, the reason why we think there will not be a question bank like in the one in Italian, in the Italian medicine test. Also, the reason why we think it will not be computer-based. Also, the reason why the ministerial decree is coming out so late, because nothing is going to change much. This is something that has been, again, up until last year, the IMAT test has gone like this. The maximum score were 90 points, and you get 1.5 for each correct answer. You get detracted 0.4 for every wrong answer, and no points for no answer. Remember that while non-EU candidates do not have a threshold whatsoever, EU candidates actually, to get into the ranking, need to reach a threshold of at least 20 points. So if you score less than 20 points and you're European, you're not even going to be in the ranking. So you're not even going to be able to compete for any kind of university, okay? Now, since I do not teach logical reasoning, I would not say unfortunately, because I have no idea on how to teach logical reasoning, I am going to pass the word to Nara, which is so much better than me at explaining what's logical reasoning going to be like.
Okay, so logical reasoning is a subject in which the theory is important because you need to study the theory in order to understand how to solve the exercises. However, the most important thing is to do many exercises and be confident with them. Logical reasoning is divided into critical thinking and problem solving. Critical thinking is more consisting texts, which are very long, and you have to be very fast in reading them. So our suggestion is to start from the question and focus on the different options that they give you in order to be very fast and don't lose time. The same happens for the problem solving. Problem solving is characterized by tables, schemes, graphs. In that case, again, you have to read the question and focus on the different options because they are very long exercises. And practice is very important in order to be fast, acquire confidence, understand the mechanism that stands behind each exercise. For the critical thinking, you have 7 different options. Which are summarizing the main conclusion and drawing a conclusion, identifying an assumption, assessing the impact of additional evidence, matching arguments, detecting reasoning errors, and applying principles. They seem very strange. However, they are very different, and by doing exercises and studying the theory, you'll understand the key to solve each exercise. And for problem solving, we have 3 different categories: the relevant selection, finding procedures, and identifying similarities. There are, especially for identifying similarities, you have to do a lot of exercises because in some cases, if you don't know to solve that, if you don't know how to solve them, you have to go on, because if you don't get the answer quickly, you lose time and you risk to take time from other exercises which are probably more important and points that you'll get for sure. And, okay, general knowledge is another main topic in the, let's say, logic part. You can't study it, but you have to know that there are some topics that are recurrent, like EU institutions, literature, philosophy, geography, and there are some tips in order to enlarge your knowledge. So, for instance, in many cases, they ask for recurrences. So our suggestion is to check for the recurrences of the 2024 year, like 100 years from the birth of that specific person, or 50 years from the release of that specific book, or I don't know. You can check the European Union website, listen to podcasts, play trivia games, do crosswords, try to enlarge your knowledge as much as possible in order to be ready to answer a lot of questions, because in this case, there isn't much you can do. If you know the answer, that's fine. But if you don't know the answer, you have to go on and try to do as many points as possible with the other questions. And these are some examples. As you can see, they're very specific questions. So Dubliners is a collection, and you have to know which is the author of Dubliners. So if you don't know who is the author, you can't answer, of course.
Now, thank you so much, Nara. And I think she was very well explicative, and she really explained what you have to focus on. Remember that general knowledge is not just general knowledge of Italy, it's general knowledge of the whole world. Like, we got asked who is the president of Brazil, or who was the president of Brazil in that year. So that's something very wide, and that's why Nara was correctly telling you to enlarge your horizons and, stay updated. We have a couple of questions before we move on. So first, any chances of test delay? I really don't think so. It's going to be very, very unlikely, in my opinion, just because they have announced the test date very recently, and usually they have never delayed a test, from what I know. Not in Italian, not in English, not for veterinary. They've never delayed a date of a test, so I don't think they will do it right now. That's my personal opinion. And as someone who doesn't have a big background knowledge of chemistry, how much time should I need to study? Well, that really depends on you. But if you want, we have some resources that may help you. You are actually going to find this live on our YouTube channel. As I said before, we will not upload a PowerPoint somewhere, but you're going to be able to watch this whole live, so slides included, on our YouTube channel, which is IMAT Med School IT. And if you only have the receipt, does that mean you count as an EU candidate? You cannot have a receipt just yet because the registration is not open yet. Anyway, the successful IMAT registration and the receipt of the payment is something that both EU and non-EU students should really hold on to. So no, that does not mean you count as an EU candidate. Okay, moving on to the other three scientific topics that I right now represent: biology, chemistry, and maths and physics. Until last year, and again, we don't think it's going to change, were multiple choice, tables and diagrams, especially a lot of drawings for biology, and complex questions. You're going to see what I mean when we do the simulation for today. Now, this is an example, okay? So complex questions mean you have a question with which of the following equation represents a redox reaction, okay? And you have 1, 2, 3, 4, and then you have 1, A, 1 and 2 only, 3, B, 3 only, and you do not have to put 1, 2, 3, 4. You have to put A, B, C, D, or E. So it's complex in that sense, that it's not just because you excluded one, then it means that that is the right answer, okay? This is an example of diagram or drawing. And again, this is another example of diagram or drawing. The process after IMAT, I think we're going to explain it after the IMAT test has happened, so don't worry. However, the process after IMAT is also explained in our previous live. I know I keep repeating myself, but please go watch our previous live about what happens after the IMAT. In your experience, is it better to answer a question and get it wrong or not to answer unless you're sure? Well, we're going to get to that. Hold on to that question, Anna, because we're going to get to that in just a second. I promise. So now, how should you study for the IMAT? These are a few of the questions that I've seen around. Luck is not something that comes into play. I mean, it does, but very, very minimal. We have some guides that are called How to Study Guides that you find on our blog. And yes, you can find them if you go back to the previous slide after this live and you scan the QR code that I put. There you can find everything. But we can give you a little bit of a hint. How should I study? Practice makes perfect. Yes, it really, really does. And now you have my job is just practice. I know, that's very funny. I think we have all watched Barbie last year. I did, definitely. But really, the theory, it's important, of course. However, it's not crucial, because what matters in that moment is not how much theory you know, is how well you can put your knowledge into play to answer a multiple choice question. That's why if you only study theory and you do no practice whatsoever, that's not going to help you at all. You have to do a lot of practice, especially right now that we're in August and we have little over a month left to the IMAT test. Do a lot of simulations to really take the idea and to get the idea of how much time it takes for you to, do just the test itself. And you really need to get common with the language. So what should you do if you're not a native speaker and you don't feel that comfortable with your English? Netflix, Prime Video, Disney Plus. Do not put them in your first language. By the way, I don't know about Nara and I don't know about the others, but for me, I don't watch anything in my mother tongue anymore. I just watch everything in English. So much better. But actually, it really, really helps so much getting familiar with, you know, the terms, getting familiar with just the language and just hearing, also for when you're going to enroll into the university of your choice. However, we do not really think that your English is that bad if you are understanding what I'm saying with this live and you want to study medicine in English. We really don't. But of course, I know that some of you may not feel super comfortable, and that's okay. For example, Grey's Anatomy, all of the big shows, or for example, I don't know, The Resident. Another big one is, help me please. Another big one is the one with the JD. I don't remember the name anymore. Scrubs, yes. Thank you very much. So you can watch the medical shows, you can watch any kind of show during the pauses just to get familiar with your English. Oh, you have the post office receipt of the I have no idea of that. I'm sorry. Oh, Dr. House, yes, thank you very much. Are there some Dr. House lovers? The Good Doctor. Yes, thank you so much for helping me, guys. Really, really helpful. Sometimes I'm 24. I just turned 24. I'm getting old. My memory is not working anymore. And but if you have the post office from the permesso di soggiorno, but you don't have the permesso di soggiorno yet, I am not really sure. I'm sorry. I think you're good to go, but I don't wanna, you know, tell you something and then have it to not to be. My suggestion is contact the university of your choice because they know for sure. Now, how do you create your own study plan? Remember, every study plan is different, so you should never, ever compare yourself to anybody else. Because what may work for them may not work for you, and what may work for you may not work for them, okay? And again, don't get discouraged by other people's success. My idea is try to do one simulation that can also count as this one that we're going to do in a second. Right now, try to do it. And then the next simulations that you will do, write down your mistakes, write down the correction of your mistakes, and then the next quizzes you will do are going to be so much better because you're going to remember those quizzes, okay? And start from the weakest topics. Another thing is set realistic goals. Do not expect to study 100 pages a day. That's not going to happen, at least on your first try. Go slow and take some time to relax and take some time for yourself. Okay, so once you've made a study program, again, exercises per topic and write down the wrong exercises. Really write them down, or you can, you know, highlight them. You can put them on an Excel sheet. I've seen a lot of people do different things, but remember what you did wrong in the previous exercise to learn from what your mistakes. And again, in August, start doing simulations. Another thing, you can have a routine ready. So why? Because a simulation is so important to always have a routine, because the day of the test, you are going to be calm because you've already had all that weight and all that scared away, all the scares away. If you say in your head, okay, I've done a lot of quizzes, I've done a lot of simulations, I know how to tackle simulations like this one, okay? And now, the question that Anna was asking before, should you reply even if you're unsure of the answer? If we put a test that is done randomly, okay? A test that is done randomly, and you are not able to exclude any option out of the whole test, on average, you're gonna score minus 1.2 points on average, okay? If you're able to exclude 2 options, so you're only left with 3 options, you're going to have 1/3 of the answers correct, okay? Which means that on average, you're going to score 14 points. That's not good, that's not bad, but again, it's better than nothing. If you're able to exclude 3 options, so you're only left with 2, half of the test is going on average to be correct and half it's going to be incorrect. That means that you're going to score on average 33 points. So my take is reply if you're unsure only if you've excluded 3 options. So if you are only unsure between two, then it's better to just shoot randomly one, because you have a higher chance of getting it right than everything else. Did I make myself clear? Now, very quickly, what we offer for you is an IMAT Live course. The theory is going to start in a couple of days, 19th to 25th of August, and the practice and the revision, it's going to be on September 5th to September 15th. Why do I say that? Because practice and revision are extremely important right now for you, or for those that are already familiar with the theory, because you really need to practice and you really need, in some cases, and help to know what you're practicing and to know what mistakes you're making and how to learn from them. And again, you can also have the complete question bank, the video library, and you can add a personal coach. Actually, if you wait until the end of this live, I'm going to give you a discount code for this course. And also a discount code for the summer school, which again, it's the IMAT preparation here in Milan, and Italian language. So if you want to learn Italian, because you're going to need Italian by the time you reach your third year for clerkships, you're going to have support on bureaucracy, finding a SIM card, accommodation, everything related to it. And again, the theory is going to be here in Milan from the 19th to the 25th of August, the practice and the revision online instead from the 5th to the 15th of September. And you can do that by scheduling a free consultation. Then we have a complete question bank. So if you want to just practice and do a lot of quizzes to be ready and to kind of get familiar with the IMAT typology, because it hasn't changed much in the past years, so we likely don't think it will change. You can use our IMAT question bank with fully explained solution, or if you want a little bit more support, you can have the self-study kit. It's going to be recorded lectures, both of theory and practice, and the question bank. However, if you want, we have also free resources. So for example, our Instagram, where we post all the latest updates on the IMAT test, tips and quizzes almost every single day, definitely at least once a week. So if you want to train with us, scan that QR code, or you can check all of our resources on medschool.it. We have also an online simulator, which is something that somebody was asking before. And yes, that is where we're going to do our simulation. But before we start with our simulation, we really beg you to fill out this evaluation questionnaire, because it's extremely important for us. It really helps us improve, and it's very quickly. It only takes 2 minutes. You just need to scan this. You can also, fill it out at the end of this live, but please do scan it. And now we're going to start the simulation. You have to go on imatsimulator.testbusters.it on Chrome, better. And the email, you have to put the email by which you register to this event, or you can create an account right now. Once you have entered your email, you're going to receive on your email the code to access the simulator, okay? You have to input the code, and then you're going to get in. So I'm going to wait. Please tell me when you're there, when you've done it. Is everything okay? Please let me know. Please give me feedback. Otherwise, I have no idea if something is not working. Okay, I hope that everything works. I'm going to give you some time. In the meantime, I'm going to, again, leave the evaluation questionnaire here if you guys want to scan it. Here it's the simulator, yes, but again, I am at simulator.testbusters.it. Again, got in. Okay, thank you very much, Fiamma. Okay. Again, once you're in, you have to click on simulations right here, and then on free IMAT simulations. For the papers, please go check out our old live, the one that is called Studying Medicine in Italy. We're talking about the whole papers. And after free IMAT simulations, you're going to click IMAT Prep School Half Simulation 2024. And then once you're ready, you start the simulation. Okay? So there is a timer inside, but for those of you who need it, I'm going to put a timer for you. So you are going to have 45 minutes, and then we're going to have the correction, the explained solutions by our beautiful teachers. So if everything is clear, good luck, and see you in 45 minutes. Timer starts now. Okay, time is up. So now it's time for the explained solution. We hope the simulation wasn't too bad for you. And we start with logical reasoning.
Okay, logical reasoning was, I hope, pretty medium easy. They were really straightforward answers. So let's figure out which were the correct answers. The first exercise was a critical thinking exercise in which you had to find which was the conclusion of the passage, and what you can see in the text is that amongst the different options, the correct one was option B, because by analyzing all the others, option A is a false statement. Option C, you can find in the text that there is written, wind turbines cannot turn any faster than wind speeds allow. And option D says electric energy doesn't produce more CO2 than petrol. Actually, we don't know how much CO2 is produced in the we don't know how much CO2 is produced, so we can't say that that is the correct answer. And then option E says that engine efficiency is never precisely measurable. Actually, nothing in text refers to it. So the only conclusion that could be drawn is the option B. Actually, when you have to find the conclusion and not the main conclusion, you can find a phrase that is written in the text, and just in the options you can find it with different words, and so that could be the correct answer. But of course, you have to check for it. Okay, then the second exercise is a problem-solving exercise with a graph. Here you have to read the text and then read the question, and then analyze all the different options that they give you by observing the graph and trying to find the correct one. So here, in this case, option A and option B were wrong, because it is impossible to compare. It's impossible to compare the different averages, since in the text we don't know if there is. It isn't said if there is a difference between the males and females in the starting average, and so. We can also exclude option E because we don't have any data, and option C because the two lines aren't always going upwards, but they're going upwards and downwards. So the only correct answer is option D. The third one, again, we are dealing with an exercise in which we need to read a text which is pretty long and pretty complex. So we need to read it carefully and we have to try to simplify it as much as possible. Here we need to find the flaw in the argument. And so by reading the text, we can say that there is a first part in which they say that in order to have a life on a planet, we must have some specific characteristics. Then they say that until now, no technique has been so much sensitive to analyze the areas and detect if there is a habitable zone or not. And then they found out that the Kepler telescope can see that there are habitable zones, and they finally say that if the telescope is able to find these areas with specific characteristics on Earth, it means that there is life on the planet, and so there can be life on planets other than Earth. Actually, this is the flaw in the argument. In fact, even though the planet has the specific characteristics, we can't be sure that life is present. And so the correct answer is B. It assumes that the existence of Earth-sized planets in the habitable zone is sufficient for life to exist. Last exercise is general knowledge. Here they ask us to find out the name of the famous doctor who discovered the importance of washing hands, and the correct answer was E. So he was an Hungarian doctor, and he discovered that by cleaning hands, there was a decrease in the puerperal fever, and so the mother death during the childbirth. Okay, I hope everything was clear. And
Okay, well, it's biology's turn now. Good, great. So we move on to number 5, which basically asks to identify the percentages of the Chargaff's rule in a double-stranded DNA molecule. Problem is, with this slide, is that in this case, the Chargaff's rule can only be applied to a DNA that was already double-stranded, not to a single-stranded DNA that then became double-stranded, such as that of this virus. So, in this case, the Chargaff's rule do not apply. So, the correct answer is indeed none of the above. So, E. Moving on to number 6, we're trying to identify which set of parents can produce a child with an O blood type. So we cross the parents with the different options. So we have an AB parents with a parents that is type A. We don't know if it's heterozygous for type A or homozygous, so that's why we put a question mark. But we see that in this case, they could not produce a child with a type 0. Moving on, we cross a patient AB with a patient of type with a parent of type B with a parent of type O, and even in this case, they cannot produce a child that is type O. Here we cross a parent with type A heterozygous with a parent, mamma mia, with type 0, and it can indeed. And last but not least, we say if we cross a patient who is type A, but we don't know if it's homozygous or heterozygous, and type B homozygous, then it will not produce a strand. So the correct answer was C. Number 7, instead, how many phosphoanhydride bonds can be found in the following strand? We added strand. The problem is that phosphoanhydride bonds can only be found between 2 phosphate group of nucleotides. And in this case, the strand does not have any phosphohydrate bonds because it's a DNA strand. So they are cross-linked one with respect to the other. So again, the correct answer was E. Number 8. Albinism. Albinism is an autosomal recessive disease. So in this case, we have this man right here that has a daughter right here. I hope you can see my mouse. Yes, okay, you can. That has a son right here that is affected, and his son has a daughter that is heterozygous. So we had to find the affirmations that could have been true. So not just the ones that were necessarily true. The thing is that, of course, his wife, to produce a son that is sick, needs to be at least heterozygous, and that's okay. Again, instead, this mother here needs to be healthy. Otherwise, this daughter would have been sick. So she needs to be necessarily healthy. The mother could have had the disease, yes, because we know that for an autosomal recessive disease to take place, we need to have at least one recessive allele from each of the parents. So she must have at least been heterozygous, but she could have also had the disease. And last, the daughter here could have been a carrier even if the father was healthy, because if the father was healthy, he would have definitely been a healthy carrier. So she could have she could have inherited the carrier allele. So the correct answer was D. Okay? Now, number 9. What is Naegeli-Patella syndrome? Again, Naegeli-Patella syndrome is an autosomal recessive disease. And here we had to identify the individuals that must have been heterozygous. So let's start from this individual here. He is sick. This means that his parents must be heterozygous. So 1 and 2 must be heterozygous, okay? Now, 3 and 4 also must be heterozygotes because they have a child that is sick. Number 5, we don't know because he never had any child. So he can be heterozygous, but he must not. But we're not sure, basically. And number 6, again, we don't know. But we know about number 8 or 9. They must be heterozygotes because they have a father that was sick. So in any case, they must be heterozygotes. So the heterozygotes individuals are 1, 2, 3, 4, 8, and 9. Correct answer, D. Number 10. Okay, so here the correct order of the cellular respiration is first, the phosphorylation of glucose into glucose 6-phosphate. This is the first step of glycolysis. Then we have everything else. Here we are talking about glycolysis and Krebs cycle because it's the ADP substrate level phosphorylation into ATP. This necessarily means glycolysis and Krebs cycle. And last, the last step is the oxidative phosphorylation, which is the final step of cellular respiration. So the correct order was again 1, 3, 2. Correct answer, D. So, did you need to know what gibberellin was? Absolutely not. I did not know what gibberellin was up until when I saw this question, to be honest. But it says it in the question itself, that it stimulates the cells of germinating grass seeds to produce mRNA molecules coding for hydrolytic enzymes. This means that it acts as a regulator of gene expression. So what I meant at the beginning of this live, when we were talking about, the do you need to know all the theory? Absolutely not, but you need to know how to answer these kinds of questions. And here, just by reasoning, you could realize that the answer was D. So, an allosteric activator of hydrolase. Number 12. Okay, so here we have the statement about transcription factors. So, do they help DNA polymerase in its activity? No, because they help RNA polymerase. Do they indicate when and where RNA polymerase starts its activity? No, because that's the data box that you can see right here and the TDP that binds to the data box. Are they produced inside the smooth endoplasmic reticulum? Yes. Are they, an example of them is Peroxisome, yes. So indeed, the correct answer was D. Now, we're almost done with biology, so please hold on. I know you guys are tired. Now, number 13 instead, which of the following structures can be found in both eukaryotic and prokaryotic cells? Well, as you can see here, you can find the plasma membrane in both, the cell wall in both, whereas chloroplast, mitochondrion, and nucleus can only be found in an eukaryotic cell. I know that the cell wall cannot be found in animal cells, but here it said eukaryotic cell in general. So the cell wall is indeed part of the things that you can find. So correct answer, again, D. We are close to the end. Number 14. Which of the following statement is correct in a healthy human? Basically, the primary muscles involved in quiet respiration are the diaphragm and the external intercostal muscles. Yes, as you can see in this image, here, they elevate the thorax. And then you have that the diaphragm and the external intercostal muscles instead relax during quiet expiration. Yes, that is also indeed true. So the expiration is indeed a passive process. However, you can have a forced expiration, which requires the contraction of other muscles, such as the abdominal and the internal intercostal muscles. But there is no such thing as forced inspiration, so the correct answer was B. Last, number 15. The separation of sister chromatids in meiosis only happens in the second phase of meiosis. And as you can see, they separate in the anaphase. So the correct answer was E, anaphase of meiosis 2. First, before I leave the floor to chemistry, I see a few questions. Yes, you're going to find it recorded on the channel. I'm going to tell this in a little bit. For the paper-based examination, we already talked about it before, so I suggest you go watch the live again. And for the multiple choice questions, you can find them on our simulator. So I'm at simulator.testbusters.it. Now it's time for chemistry. And it's time for Emma.
Okay, so now we start with chemistry. The first question asks you about an isotope. Okay. I'm trying to move the slides, I'm sorry.
I can do it for you, it's okay.
Okay, thank you. So it gives us the mass number and the atomic number. We must remember that the atomic number is the number underneath our atom, and it tells us the number of protons, while the mass number, which is above our element, gives us the number of protons summed with the number of neutrons. So in this case, we needed the number of electrons to find the element on the periodic table. And we must remember that the number of electrons is the same as the number of protons when the atom is neutral, which is, in this case, it is. So we can look at the number of protons, which is 13, and see that it's the same as the number of electrons. So we go to see the configuration, the electronic configuration of the atom, and we can then find it on the periodic table. We can see that it's in the third period and on the 13th group if we go and count all the electrons. So the correct answer was A. Then in the next question, we had a neutralization reaction. First of all, we need to convert the measurements units. Always remember to do this because sometimes they do it on purpose to confuse you. They give you the wrong measurement units and you always need to convert them. So that's the first thing you do. And then we go to calculate the moles of sulfuric acid that we needed to obtain this solution. How do we find moles? We multiply the volume per the molarity, and they were both given to us. So we do this multiplication and we find that we have 0.025 moles. And at this point, we know from the reaction that was given in the question that for each sulfuric acid mole, we have 2 moles of HXOH. So we need to multiply it by 2 in order to find the number of moles of XOH. And at this point, we have the number of moles, and we only need to find the mass of the molecule. So the molecular mass is mass divided by the number of moles. We have both data because the mass was given to us in the text, and we have just calculated the number of moles. So we find that in total, we have the molecular mass of XOH, which is 56 grams. And then we have to subtract the mass of OH. So it was given to us in text again. It was 16 and 1. We go to sum it up, and it gives us 17. And we subtract it from the mass that we found. This way we can find the atomic mass of X, which is 39. So the correct answer was C. Then we have to find the pH of this solution, but we have to remember that HCN is a weak acid. So what we would do for a strong acid would be we do minus the logarithm of the molarity, in this case 10 at the -4. So we would do that for a strong acid, but a weak acid only ionized partly. So we need to find a pH that is slightly higher. So if we know that the pH of a strong acid with this molarity would be 4, because we do the equation for the pH, here we know that it must be slightly higher than 4. So the correct answer was C. Then here it gave us 3 different reactions, and we need to know what was the reducing agents. It's very important to remember that the reducing agent is the agent that goes to reduce another compound. So it does not get reduced itself, it gets oxidized. So it loses electrons, and it goes to increase its oxidation number, even if it can be confusing at first because the terms are very similar. But a reducing agent always gets oxidized. We can remember it by Leo de Lyonce's gas, because those who lose electrons get oxidized, and those who gain electrons get reduced. So then we go to see all 3 reactions that were given to us. And in the first one, we can see that the compound that goes to increase its oxidation number is an O. On the second one, if we go to see the oxidation numbers, we will see that it was barium that goes from -1 to 0. And in the third one, we can see that was magnesium that goes from 0 to +2. So the correct answer was B. Now, in the 20th question, it was asking you what was the decomposition that needed a higher temperature. It only means that it needs higher energy. So more temperature needs more energy. In this case, you needed to look at the compounds and see what was the more stable one. In this case, we know that sodium is very reactive, and so it goes to form a very stable compound with oxygen. So it is very hard to break this compound, and since it is very hard to break it, it needs a lot of energy. So the correct answer was B. Now, on the 21st, we have another atom with its mass number and its atomic number. In this case, it has the number of protons, neutrons, and electrons. First of all, the number of protons was already given to us because the atomic number is the number of protons, so we already have it. Then we go to calculate the number of neutrons, which is the mass number minus the atomic number, because it is the total number of protons and neutrons minus the number of protons. So we find that it is 12. And then to look at the number of electrons, we know that it's the same as the number of protons in a neutral atom. In this case, we have a positive ion. So it has a charge of +2. This means that the protons are 2 more than the electrons. So we go and subtract 2. So we find that it's 10. And the correct answer was B. Then here we have something about these 3 bottles. First of all, we need to see what were the properties of these bottles. The first one had an alkaline solution. So when you put it in water, it goes to form an alkaline solution, and it conducts electricity when it is ionized. So we know that these properties are those of the sodium hydroxide. Then the second bottle gave a neutral solution when put into water and conducts electricity because it ionized again. And in this case, we're talking about a sodium chloride because this is a salt. So it goes to give a neutral solution and conducts electricity. In the third bottle, it was a neutral solution and it did not conduct electricity. We can know that this is sugar because sugar does not get ionized and does not dissolve in water. So it gives a neutral solution because it does not completely dissolve and it does not conduct electricity. So the correct answer was A. And lastly, we had this reaction. The important thing to notice in this reaction is that the first compound, so C5H12, was the formula of an alkane. So then after we have found out that it was an alkane, we can now see that an alkane plus oxygen, when it gives water and carbon dioxide, it means that we're having a combustion reaction. So the correct answer was B.
Okay. So I think we can move on to math and physics. So I'm gonna control the slides. Okay. So let's start from question 24. So we were talking about harmonic motion, okay? So and we were asked to find the maximum speed and the maximum acceleration, okay? The main formula of the harmonic motion is 2 pi Greek over the period t, which is omega, which is the angular speed. And we can use this formula in order to find the maximum velocity and the maximum acceleration, okay? Because the maximum velocity is the amplitude times the angular speed, and the maximum acceleration is the amplitude times omega squared, okay? So we just substitute the values in the formula, because in the text we were given the period, which was 2. So omega is pi Greek radians over second. And then we get that Vmax is the amplitude times omega, so 0.2 pi Greek meters per second. And the maximum acceleration is the amplitude, so 0.2 times pi Greek squared, because pi Greek was our omega. And so we get 1.97 meters per second squared. Remember that the unit of measurement of the acceleration is always meters per second squared, okay? For example, g is measured in the same way. Okay, so for this reason, the correct answer was C. Okay, remember that K in this case is irrelevant. Okay. All right, let's see if there are any questions on the chat. No. Okay, so let's move on to exercise 25. So in this case, we had to find the values for which the given expression was a parabola. Okay, so remember that in a parabola, you always have something multiplying x squared. So in this case, we just put the coefficient, okay, this coefficient 4k to the power 4 plus 5k squared minus 6 greater than 0, okay, because this should exist. So we solve this inequality and we get 4k to the power 4 plus 8k squared minus 3k squared minus 6. So what we just done here, we did change 5k squared into 8k squared minus 3k squared. Okay, it's the same thing, but we would like just to factorize this in a simpler way. Okay, so that's why we're rewriting 5k squared as 8 minus 3, because in this way we can factorize 4 and 8. So we factorize 4k squared and we get 4k squared times k squared plus 2. And on the other side, we have minus 3k squared minus 6, so we can factorize 3, and then we get k squared plus 2. Okay, so minus 3 is factorized, and it's multiplying k squared plus 2. So in this way, we factorize again, and we get 4k squared minus 3 times k squared plus 2. And then all of these products should be greater than 0, so we're below of the products. And so both the elements should be zero in order to get 0, okay, because it's a product. We've been factorizing the expression, and so we get 4k squared minus 3 greater than 0, or k squared plus 2 greater than 0. Okay, let's start from the second one. We see that this expression is always positive, because k squared is always positive, and so a positive number plus 2 will always be positive. So we write for every x belonging to R, so this means that the expression is always verified. And let's move on to the other one. So we get 4k squared minus 3 greater than 0. And in this case, we have 4k squared minus 3. We move 3 to the other side, okay, and we divide by 4, and we get k squared greater than 3 over 4. So if we want to have k squared greater than 3 over 4, we just consider the external values of the square root of this number, okay? So k lower than minus 3 square root of 3.5, or k greater than square root of 3.5, okay? And so for this reason, the first answer was C. Okay, no questions on the chat, so I'm gonna move on. Okay, this one was more of a theoretical one because we were talking about convection. So my advice is to use these kinds of exercises in order to save time for more complex ones, okay? So in this case, we're talking about convection. So let's see the first one. Convection is the transmission of heat between a solid body and a fluid body. This can be true, okay? It can be true because it's true that convection occurs in fluids, okay, in air, in water, but you can think about the examples, for example, of the seaside with the rocks, okay? If the rocks heat up, okay, because of sunlight, then there is a transfer of heat to the water, and this transfer of heat to the water generates some currents inside the fluid, okay? So that's why the first one is true. And convectional heat transmission depends on the thickness of the contact surface. This is not true, okay, because this one is true for conduction, okay? In conduction, the amount of heat is inversely proportional to the thickness of the surface, okay? And so for this reason, this was wrong. And how about convective motions? In this case, that's the opposite, okay? So we have in the convective motions, we have the hot air moving upwards and the cool air moving downwards, okay? So for this reason, the only answer was C, okay? Because first one of the 3 statements was true and the other ones were wrong, okay? All right, so we can move on to the next one. So this one was about the Pythagorean theorem. So in this case, we were given 2 sides, okay, of triangle or right-angled triangle, and we were asked to find the other one, okay? In this case, the letters are swapped, okay, because we were given the longest side, okay, and we had to find this one here, okay? So this one, which is called in this case B, is the hypotenuse squared minus the other side squared over square root. Okay, so in this case, we have square root of 6 plus square root of 5 squared, okay, which is this side here, minus, because we are considering the hypotenuse, minus the other side squared, okay, so minus 3 plus square root of 5 squared. Okay, when you're solving this kind of questions, remember to use the notable product, okay? This is the square of a binomial. So in this case, you have 36 plus 5, which is square root of 5 squared, plus double product. So 6 times square root of 5 times 2, which is 12 times square root of 5, minus the square of the binomial, okay? So 9 minus 5 minus 3 times square root of 5 times 2. If we solve the entire expression, we get square root of 27 plus 6 times square root of 5. Okay, so for this reason, the correct answer was A. All right. So if everything is clear, I'm going to move on to the next one. So let's move on to the last ones. We are almost there. So let's talk about Pascal flow. Okay, so the hydraulic press is an example, okay, is an application of Pascal flow, stating that if we apply pressure to a system, the pressure distributes evenly throughout the fluid. Okay, so pressure is even throughout the fluid. Okay, so we can use the hydraulic press in order to lift heavy objects by exploiting the difference in the surface of the hydraulic press. So in this case, if the pressure is constant because of Pascal flow, we have the force over the surface is equal to the force over the second surface. Okay, so in this case, Bobo was trying to lift a car, okay, and we have to find the force exerted by Bobo. So in this case, we use the inverse formula, and we find FB as FC times SB over SC. Okay, so FB is given by this expression. We substitute the values, so we get 4,500 newtons, which is the weight of the car times the free fall acceleration. Okay, mass times free fall acceleration is the weight, which is force, so it's measured in newtons, times 3 times 10 to the power of minus 4 meters squared. This is the surface 1, okay, Bobo surface. We've been converting it into meters squared. Okay, so in the text, we were talking about square centimeters. Remember that if you pass from square centimeter to square meters, you have to pass with 10 to the power of minus 2, okay, for every step you make. Over 50 meters squared, this one was already meter squared, so we didn't have to convert it. If we do solve the calculus, we get 2.7 times 10 to the power of minus 2 newtons, which is the force exerted by Bobo in order to lift the car at the opposite side of the hydraulic press. So for this reason, the correct answer was B. Okay, let's see if there are any questions. Okay. So let's move on to exercise 29. So in this case, from the text, we were told that cost of a pear plus a banana plus an apple is 75 euros. And so we write this expression by using some letters. Then we also know that the price of a banana is the price of a pear plus 13. And we also know that the price of a banana is the price of an apple minus 4. So we can rewrite this by writing A equals B plus 4. This is a system with 3 equations, okay, with 3 unknown variables. And what we're going to do is to substitute one expression into the other two. So in this case, we know that B is P plus 13. So in the third one, we write B as P plus 13 plus 4. Okay, so A is P plus 13 plus 4. So it's P plus 17. Okay. And we just substitute the third expression into the first one. Okay, so we have P plus B, which is P plus 13, and you see here, plus A, which is P plus 17. And this is equal to 75. So we solve the other expressions, okay, and we get that P is 15, 3P is 65 minus 30, and so the last step is that A plus B is 60, because B is 15 plus 13. Okay, we've just been solving this expression here by knowing that P is 15 plus and another P is 15. So this one is 30. And this one is 15 as well. And we also know that A is 15 plus 17, which is 32. Okay, so the sum of the cost of an apple and a banana is 60 euros. Okay, so in this case, the correct answer was B. Okay, there are no questions. All right, so let's move on to the last one. Okay, we were talking about Ohm's second law, stating that the resistance is equal to the ratio between the product of the resistivity rho times the length of the wire of the conductor over the surface. Okay, so in this case, we're just been comparing the length and the surfaces of the wires in order to find which one has the greatest resistance. Okay, we know that rho stands for the resistivity, which is constant related to the material of the conductor. In this case, all the conductors were made of copper, so rho is the same. Okay, so we just focus on the length and on the surface. We know that the first and third one, the first and the third conductors have the same surface, which is pi Greek times radius squared, so 0.25 pi Greek millimeter squared. And the second and the fourth one have a surface which is pi Greek millimeter squared. So let's try and calculate the resistance for every conductor. So in the first one, we're going to have rho times 10 millimeters over 0.25. In the second, we have rho times 10 millimeters over pi Greek. In the third one, we have rho times 20 millimeters over 0.25 pi Greek. And in the fourth one, we have 20 millimeters times rho over pi Greek. So as you can see here, in the third conductor, we have 20 at the numerator and a smaller number at the denominator. So this means that this ratio will be higher. And for this reason, the third resistance will be the greatest. Okay, so for this reason, the correct answer was C. All right, so I
Okay,
don't see any
so
questions.
yes, we are done. Thank you so much. Please remember, fill out this evaluation questionnaire. This is super, super important. So because it really helps us improve and it helps us know what you enjoyed, what you didn't, what we could do better. And it's really, really important for us to have your feedback and to know a bit more about, what you think. So please scan this. Or you can scan it later, even in the live. It's okay in the recording, which will be uploaded indeed. And you can follow us on social media. We have an Instagram profile, IMAT.medschool, which is the same as our TikTok. And we, again, have the YouTube profile. Well, this live will be uploaded, and it's IMAT Med School IT. No dots, everything together. Okay? And to thank you for coming here, you will have a discount code, 10% off all of our starting courses and all of the summer school. And it's valid until the 12th of August. And it's this discount code right here that you can see. So you will also find it in the email that you registered with this event. And we're done. We're officially done. So I see no questions. So we thank you all so much for coming. Again, please fill out the evaluation form. It really, really helps us. And we wish you a nice day. Bye, guys. Bye.